Salam dear BCom for 933 students. This is Adel. Welcome back again. Today's lecture is on elements of diffusion from chapter number 1 from Diffusion of Innovations 5th edition by Everett Rogers. If you also go to Moodle, you will find a summary of chapter number 1. Probably you want to check that out. Okay, so before we start, we discussed before diffusion and innovation, diffusion, dissemination, and we discussed the differences between diffusion and innovation, and we said that Rogers treat both terms as interchangeable, diffusion and dissemination. But there are some differences, as we have discussed before. For this lecture, we want to understand why ideas get diffused or innovations, what makes them disseminate quickly at high speed. But before we understand that, in the chapter number 1 talks about the main elements of diffusion, and Rogers starts with the interesting story about water boiling in a Peruvian village. It's very interesting. We'll discuss it in a while. But for now, for us, if we understand why diffusion failed, probably that would help us to avoid common mistakes in disseminating any public campaigns. So innovations need to, innovations, let me just get, so basically innovations need long time to be disseminated and adopted. That's true, but not always. What is important for us to understand is not about getting idea adopted or not, but it is to understand the dynamic, to understand the question of how we can speed up the rate of innovations. You can see that many companies, many organizations, they come up with new innovations, applications, smart solutions. Now the question is how they can speed up the level of adoption, so they can be front runners and at the competitive advantage comparing to others. Okay. Now, let's discuss, before we discuss these main elements of diffusion, let's understand when things go wrong and what makes them go wrong. Now, page number 1 from the text, Everett Rogers presents a very interesting case. It's water boiling in a Peruvian village. Now, you know, Peru, probably all of you know Peru's like they also have like pyramids, like like Egypt. So here is Peru. So he discusses about a small village in Peru called Los Molanos, I think. Let me check. What is it? Yes, Los Molinos. Yes, now I'm pronouncing the Spanish word correctly. Los Molinos. Okay, so basically, now let me just give you a background of this case. In Los Molinos, public health service introduced an innovation. So try to remember that for us, when we say innovation, we mean an idea, a public campaign. You look at it as if like the Ministry of Health would like to encourage people to social distance and to self-quarantine and stay at home. Now, how can people adopt that public awareness message? So in this case, what they try to do is to promote a public health message. Now, in order to lengthen people's lives and to improve their health, to encourage them to install latrines, latrines, marahid, controlling flies, burning garbage, and reporting infectious diseases, and boiling drinking water. Okay, great. For you guys, for your final project, you have a public campaign to diffuse your hashtag. Now, before you do that, you need to have a goal. You must have a clear goal. For the goal of this Peruvian village case was to change thinking behaviors of Peruvian villages. Okay. Now, for you also need, for your final group project, you must have a clear goal of your research. If you have a campaign, if you have a hashtag, you want to diffuse it, you must have a clear goal. Let me explain what I mean by clear goal. Okay, so if I go to, let me just get something. Let me just get maybe. Okay, so the goal of your project must be a SMART goal. And I think all of you know what SMART goal. Okay, so your goal of your public campaign must be specific, measurable, must be attainable, okay, must be realistic, and must be within time, specific time. Okay, now, for example, let's say that you want to disseminate a hashtag on promoting, physical activity. So people go out there and walk and exercise. So your goal is, what do we mean by specific is, you can say, for example, you must state your problem statement at the top is to encourage people, let's say, to exercise more. You see what I mean? Now, the whole idea here by specific is you should say that by end of 2020, we need our message to reach about this much. Because if it is percentage-wise, we need by end of the month, the public awareness campaign to reach Twitter reach, if you remember before we talked about that, at this much of audience. So you must have a clear number. I will discuss more about when it comes to your group projects, but for now, let me go back again to the slides. Okay, so now here for this campaign, it is kind of to change the goal again, thinking behavior of Peruvian villages. But with that goal, you must have a clear SMART goal. For example, within 2 months from within 1 year or 2 years from the inception of the campaign, we need around these people to adopt these healthy practices. Do you see what I mean? So basically, this is what I mean by SMART goal. Okay. Okay. So let me explain basically what is again to repeat what is a boiling water case. The main goal of this public health campaign is to increase the awareness of healthy habits. Let me just get this. Okay, so to increase awareness of healthy habits. So in a short time, people will not return to clinic to be treated again. Okay, so if people at the village follow these healthy practices, they won't come back and forth every time to the clinic to seek for medical assistance. Okay, innovation. Now, remember when I told you that your goal of your campaign must be SMART, like specific. So you must create a timeline. You see, a 2-year water boiling campaign in Los Molinos. Excellent. Audience, 200 families of Los Molinos peasant village would be targeted. Excellent. Okay, so keep in mind, just whenever you have your own campaign to disseminate a hashtag about a common good, a public good, you need to remember that you need very, very specific goal. So basically, again, the innovation or the initiative is to disseminate, to encourage peasant or the villages to adoption. That's why we are talking about innovation, diffusion of innovation, the adoption model we'll discuss later on. And now, again, it is a 2-year boarding campaign. 200 families. The goal is to persuade housewives to boil water and to adopt other healthy habits. Now, you need a change agent. If you remember, we discussed about opinion leader or social media influencers. Now, here a change agent was, Miss Nelida. She's a local health worker. Her main task was to go to the housewives and to encourage them to adopt healthy practices. Okay, now what are some of the outcomes from her campaign? She visited every home. In every home, she visited between 15 to 25 times. Oh, I'm just summarizing the chapter number 1 from from the Diffusion of Innovation text. Okay, 5% or 11 housewives adopted the innovation, meaning that only 5% out of all housewives that were visited by Miss Nelida adopted the innovation, and the innovation in this case is okay, this is Arabic. Okay, so to adopt innovation. In this case, the innovation is let me change this one. Okay, yes, the innovation here in this case is to boil water, because boiling water is you're killing the germs, etc. We'll discuss about that. Okay, excellent. Despite having an aid of medical doctor, what is this? Okay. Now, despite of having an aid of medical doctor who gave public talks, so Miss Nelida also had support with her. She had a medical doctor who gave public talks, awareness campaigns about the importance of boiling water. And despite of that, the 15 house who were already boiling water, Nelida's failed her campaign. Okay. Now, so there were 15 housewives who were already boiling water. However, we are talking about 200 families. Her campaign failed. Why is that? Now, let's dive deep and try and see what went wrong. Okay, so let me stop here and record in another video, maybe, so that will be more helpful probably. I want to make these short videos.